Cherian, hi.
What's up, Evie? How we doing?
There's that trademark energy.
The energy is at an all-time high because we had a lead up, right?
Yeah, I had to work for it, so you better deliver. That's okay, but I delayed you a little bit in getting started on this because I had to go put on my colors.
I like it. I love it. Bleeding magenta over there. Oh,
That's
well
right.
played.
Thank you. And we're going to explain exactly why I'm wearing magenta in a minute because it all has to do with where you are now and why you have a magenta background also. Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 11, season 2 of Insider Interviews, where you get the insider's scoop on the business of media, marketing, and advertising. And the scoop today is from Cherian Thomas. He's the head of marketing and go-to-market for T-Mobile Advertising Solutions. And he's going to talk about how he brought his baby octopus to... No, not his baby octopus, his baby, comma, octopus, which creates entertainment in the back seats of Ubers and Lyfts to T-Mobile, which they acquired to boost connectivity to consumers wherever they are on their customer journey, particularly in the backseat of rideshares. Anyway, he's a brilliant guy and very enthusiastic, as you'll hear in this episode. We also talked a lot about something called the DPAA, and to help educate our audience before we dive in more with Cherian, I invited its CEO, Barry Frey, to explain exactly what it is and offer some insights about digital out of home, one of the fastest growing media platforms. Hello, Barry.
DB, nice to see you as always. How are you?
Thank you. Better for seeing you. So, Barry, this thing called the DPAA, you have really turned it into like a global force. And you've been an amazing evangelist for out of home and digital out of home. For those less familiar, can you describe what it is and what you do?
Sure. So the DPAA is the Global Trade Organization and Marketing Organization that is dedicated to the growth of out of home, at the same time dedicated to the digitization of out of home. And by the digitization of out of home, we mean a modern day digital advertising business. And there's so many features of that that have been enabling us to grow. And by the way, we are in every continent. We become EB, the connector, the consigliere, the community, and the consulting organization for all our members. We help them get to their business goals faster, better, quicker by aligning with our community and with our knowledge base and our connections.
And what's an example of some of the features that have driven that growth?
Sure. So the digital features include such things certainly as programmatic, and we have great demand and buy side platforms that are members. 3D has become increasingly magical and popular using AR and VR and QR codes. One of our greatest opportunities is now the ability to dynamically serve ads to targeted audiences. So we can serve ads by time, by temperature, by even the daily news or weather. And that's becoming very powerful, as well as the ability to target audiences that heretofore was not available. So what that has done, it's taken this out of home medium, which was always a great medium for branding and awareness at the top of the marketing funnel. And now it's enabling us to generate value from budgets in the mid and the lower funnel, actually going to apps or going into stores and making purchases.
3D, is that also called anamorphic? I think I've heard that.
Yes, very
Okay,
good.
I got my
You've always been
keywords.
a you've always been a great media specialist. So thank you. That's absolutely right. And you could actually say the word, which I can't always say.
And that is, I've seen these crazy billboards where it almost looks like things are flying off of the screen. It's really amazing what can happen now with digital billboards.
It's wonderful. It's very exciting, between the digital billboards and the screens that we have now. And of course, video has enabled our industry to grow where heretofore the budgets may have been for cable and satellite, or they may have been video from, online. And in addition, we are also getting digital budgets, which is also, all of that has helped grow. So that's a big part of our business now.
And so when you say additional screens, that could also mean taxi toppers or what you're watching on the gym screen, right?
You're absolutely right. From Times Square to Tokyo, from the big screens and streets and highways, like you said, to gyms, to malls, retail media, very powerful opportunity for us. Of course, office buildings, elevators, gas stations, everything that you may see on the path to purchase. And now, as I mentioned with retail media, our members are also at the point of purchase.
Tremendous, huge growth, Barry. And I have a feeling you had more than a little bit to do with it.
But also great members like Cherian Thomas, one of the best. He's brought tremendous entrepreneurial skills to his first octopus business and now to T-Mobile. So, yeah, we've got a great membership all over the world, and we've got a great team and staff, and it is the fastest growing medium percentage-wise of all media. So thank you for having me, Amy.
Absolutely. Thanks for the explanation, Barry. We're all looking forward to hearing more from the DPAA. Cherian, I'm a little bit nervous. I have to acknowledge that. Do I have to call you doctor?
Please don't. No.
Okay.
Although, it's funny because my parents are doctors, my brother's a doctor, and I'm from India. So like you're kind of like everyone we know in our families, has gone into the medical field. But yeah, no, definitely not.
Okay, because I'll explain that you got an honorary doctorate at age 33. Who gets that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely honored for that, and quite frankly, it was really about giving back to the kind of entrepreneurial community. I know what it's like to have an idea and not know where to start and when to start, how to start. I always made myself available, and I think that was noticed in the community, and certainly a memory I'll never forget.
That's so nice. And who bequeathed that upon you?
That was actually Hood College where I did my MBA, and I'm still pretty active in that community. I sit on the board of associates there, and it's been amazing to see the school grow.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that you give a lot and you get a lot. I know you were also a 40 under 40 for Washington Business Journal. So again, I am a little intimidated.
Oh wow! If I knew I was going to come over here and just get compliments, I'd have brought my wife and all my friends. So thank you. And I think it's I guess hard work works, right? I mean, we've been hustling, and
Yeah.
why those accolades are great. There've been many downs with the few ups. So
Yeah.
it's not all a rosy photo.
I am going to talk a little bit about why I think you're deserving. And part of it is that energy that we just talked about, because I met you a couple of years ago at one of the DPAA, the Digital Out of Home Trade Association's global summits, and Octopus was on display. And it was this cool thing that I met you there and you walked me through the product. And you made me feel like I was your new best friend. And even if I'm not, I still feel that way today. So
Well,
thank you.
you are a bestie. We've had many a selfies together. We did meet at the DPAA Global Summit, and this time it's Team T-Mobile, but still have that octopus spirit.
That's right. That's right. So tell us what you walked me through a couple of years ago, and then we'll get into what it is now.
Oh, in short, the team, myself, and my co-founder Brad and I had created the largest network of interactive screens inside of Uber and Lyft vehicles. So think kind of like you have in-flight entertainment when you go on a long-distance flight. We brought that infotainment to the back of your Uber and Lyft vehicle. So riders could play games, they could win prizes, and then in between the games, we're able to deliver, to a captive audience, interactive ads, to a highly sought after kind of 18 to 35 audience. And we scaled that business, and in January of 2022, that we were acquired by T-Mobile. And we couldn't be more thrilled to be part of the Magenta family, and they've certainly
the
put the
magenta.
business, hence the Magenta, which is why I love your shirt. It goes great with his background, but I think that was a moment in time where like the business really got serious, right? Which is amazing what a big brand like T-Mobile can do for a business that requires connectivity.
Right.
And so yeah, excited to share a little bit more with you about
But
it.
part of that, and what led to, I think, some of your many accolades, was you helped build something called Spotluck, a
Mhm,
restaurant discovery app, before you built Octopus. So you went from
mhm.
kind of gamifying restaurant ordering and then gamified ride sharing. How'd that happen?
Yeah, so just to kind of go back in time a little bit, you're right. We actually started a company called Spotluck. This was during the Groupon Living Social time, right?
Yeah.
And we just felt there was a better way of providing incentives for local restaurants. We created some software that changed prices in restaurants based on day, time, weather, other factors that impacted restaurant occupancy. So it was smart incentives. And restaurants loved it because it actually made sense. They'd rather have somebody in their table than let that table go empty, right? Like yield
Hmm.
management. But it was a two-sided kind of platform, maybe. And so on the other side, right, like you can get all the restaurants in the world to sign up, but if you don't get users, it doesn't matter. And that's where the gamification came in. One of the rules with consumer facing apps is you want to solve a recurring problem or trying to figure out where to eat. And so with our app for the users, they would get one spin per day, like a roulette wheel. And it would help solve the dining dilemma, give them a smart incentive, and it was a win-win for the consumer and also for the merchants who had a huge need of getting butts in seats.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Brilliant. And so what I'm hearing in there also is that you understand the imperative of changing creative on the fly and figured out a way to do that along the customer journey. And so then you
Mhm.
reached them while they were on their journeys in Uber and Lyft. See how I did that?
I
Uh-huh.
love it. Well
Okay.
played, Evie. That's why you do what you do.
Uh-huh.
Um, well, yeah. I mean, I think Octopus was born, out of a true need, right? Like, if you can have all the restaurants and you can have, the best technology and the best patents or whatever it may be, but if you don't have users, it doesn't matter. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what we found is that the folks that used the app was someone who was 21 to 35. They lived in a city. They went out to eat 2 to 3 times a week. They had a beer on a Tuesday. And, it turns out that that was the Uber and Lyft rider. And
I
so
see.
while trying to market our app to consumers, we had to identify who is the ideal target audience. And then you look at the target audience, you're like, wow, that's the Uber and Lyft
There
rider.
you go.
And this is 2014, when we started that app. So like there was no way of connecting with an Uber or Lyft rider.
Right.
So we got in the back seat with them, and we started putting tablets inside of rideshare vehicles to market our own brand and solve our own pain points. And turns out it worked really well for us, and then it worked really well for
Uh-huh.
brands. Look, you're in a captive setting. You've got
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes, dwell time. And so you want to create kind of a lean in experience. So
Mm-hmm.
the consumer is playing a game and they're having a great time, but the brand is actually having an awesome moment connecting with that rider. Truly non-invasive, right? And
Opt
I think
in.
that's a win-win. The rest was history from there. We had product market fit,
Got
and
it.
we were able to scale it out.
So, digital out of home has really progressed a lot. And now we have it in the back of cars and we have it on top of cars, on taxi toppers and at bus stands. And, you walk down the street and there's a mobile billboard. There's so much going on with out of home, digital out of home. Is that part of why T Mobile acquired Octopus? And what are they helping you to do to elevate that experience?
Look, T-Mobile was a great partner of ours when we were building Octopus. Not only were they, a client who understood the value of connecting with that consumer along their journey inside of a rideshare vehicle, they were also our connectivity partner, and they got to, date and see us
Got it.
grow and understand the business. And I think we had a shared mission on like, look, we've only scratched the surface. If we can delight riders in their Uber and Lyft journey, well, what's the next phase, right? And the next phase goes from rideshare to connected vehicles, from connected cars to level 5 autonomy, and all of those need connectivity. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one of the things that's really exciting for us is like, how do we become that infotainment, entertainment kind of platform or that operating system when you are in a autonomous vehicle? And so, I think that that's something that T-Mobile really understands of the future requires connectivity. And we're getting closer and closer to that world. And we are best in biz and have the track record of knowing what does a consumer want to do when they have time. If you have a consumer who doesn't have to drive the car, what would they like to do?
Uh-huh.
And quite frankly, rideshare and Uber and Lyft is the closest thing to that experience, right? Because I can get into an Uber, and if I wanted to, I could sleep. If I wanted to, I could check my email. If I wanted to, I could look out the window, right? Well, it turns out riders love playing games. They love getting information that's kind of like live, like scoreboards and
Yep.
APIs that we have on live stats of scores and weather, et cetera. And so I think T-Mobile found that interesting, but at the same time, the space of digital out of home, which is again, one of rapidly growing sector. At the same time, it's been one of the last to innovate.
Hmm.
The first billboard came out in the 1800s, so it kind of took us a few years to digitize. And there's kind of a common denominator there where, the TAM is getting larger in this space. There's more screens that are able to come to market because the cost of screens have come down, and all of those screens require connectivity.
Yeah.
And that's something that T-Mobile does best. And we think that this place is ripe for disruption. And last thing I'll say is that um, we are a big spender. And so we see pain points. We see things that can be done better when we're on
Hmm.
the buy side. And so why don't we solve it for ourselves? And if we solve it for ourselves, then it can scale out.
I have so many questions off of that. There are so many more screens, is one of the things that you said. And one of those
Mhm,
places is also at retail, right?
mhm,
So we've heard a lot of buzz about retail media networks. I'm guessing
mhm,
that T Mobile might help the connectivity there, or maybe you can connect the consumer from their mobile to their
mhm,
other form of digital out of home, which is in
mhm.
store
hmm
advertising.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, and you're right. I mean, digital out of home's growing sector, so are retail media networks, and there's a lot of folks who are focusing on retail media network using first party data and kind of the online RMN, and we actually see a lot of potential in the offline, so the in store.
Hmm.
And if you look at the data, I've said this many times. If you look at Walmart, Home Depot, CVS, Walgreens, Albertsons, Kroger. Like you look at all these companies, like more people go into a Kroger than go to Kroger.com or use the Kroger app.
Yeah.
And whether, the numbers don't lie, like actual consumer spending is four times larger in store than it is online. And so therein lies an opportunity. And so you combine that trend with the cost of screens reducing tremendously over the past 10 years. You're right. There is an opportunity for in-store screens that will need connectivity, and we find that kind of interesting. And we think that there's an opportunity for us to leverage what we do best and help build that out. One thing is, don't forget, T-Mobile also has thousands of stores ourselves all throughout the U.S. And so, as we like to say, drink our own magenta champagne is common practice over here.
Okay. Now, your role at T Mobile also changed when you brought Octopus over
Mhm,
under its purview. And
mhm,
now I think you head up the marketing for T Mobile
mhm,
Advertising Solutions. It's kind of is it a new division or just a new name? And what are you doing? And are you
mhm,
buying advertising or
mhm.
promoting
Sure.
your ad solutions via screens?
Yeah, so currently I actually oversee marketing and go-to-market for our advertising business inside of T-Mobile, or T-Ads. And so that's been really exciting, especially because, as you mentioned, like everybody knows as T-Mobile as the uncarrier. Yeah, you can't miss our Magenta, out there, and we've got 100 million plus folks using us for connectivity. The ads business is something that we've spun up, over the past few years. It's a rapidly growing business inside of T-Mobile, and it's one of those things where we can, again, just to reiterate, we love solving pain points. We've done it for consumers all the time, whether it's getting rid of contracts, or if it's coverage beyond, or it's price lock right for
Hmm.
life. Like these are pain points that consumers have, and T-Mobile is best in biz at solving those. Well, it turns out advertisers and brands also have similar pain points when it comes to them spending dollars and getting their brand out there or hitting performance metrics. And so that's what we're leveraging is, the assets that T-Mobile has to help ourselves and then also help other brands be able to do advertising better and bring the uncarrier to the space. Yeah, so that's, my role has certainly shifted from overseeing kind of the rideshare and being the CEO of Octopus to now overseeing the marketing of many different products within our advertising sector inside of T-Mobile.
Well, the doctor is on call.
Yeah, there you go. Cue
You
the
can put that
snare
on your
drums.
on your office door.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And it's definitely exciting, right? And you look at it, and it's like, Amazon has built an ads business, LinkedIn
yep.
has an ads business, right? TikTok ads business, and like I mentioned before, to use Amazon, to use TikTok, to use these, like, you need your phone, right? And
Yeah.
so we, as the carrier, have privileged kind of information, all privacy compliant, and so. How can we use that to make advertising better for our own stakeholders?
Hmm.
And so, that when we talk to our own customers, it shouldn't be yeah, every message is the first time we've ever met you, right?
Yeah.
And so these are the types of things, utilizing data, utilizing AI, and making a better experience for our customers, and then extrapolating that out for other brands.
Now, some of those brands or networks or retailers that you mentioned earlier are partnering with some other brands or some other platforms.
Mhm.
In those thousands of T-Mobile stores, which is also a form of your own retail network, aside from you marketing T-Mobile in other retail locations, are you accepting brand advertising in store on your screens, or do you use brands to demo certain things? How are you
Mhm.
partnering, if you are,
We
with any other
we are
CPG
not.
companies or whatever?
Yeah, we
It's a
are
good
not.
idea,
And
though.
again, yeah, I mean, it's a great idea,
That'll be
and let's
$5.
expand on that, right? So, if you think about, our number one stakeholder are our customers. And we want to make sure that we can make a delightful, enjoyable experience for them. And
Oh,
so first is, how do we market our own current offerings? So,
yeah,
hey, which phone to pick, what plan to pick, right? Like, so that
that's true.
messaging, of course, you're going to see. Next, and like, what might make more sense is more of endemic brands. And so we have, products from Samsung, from Google, from
Right.
Apple, from Motorola, from LG, et cetera, right? So like those make sense. That's not invasive, and it's
Yeah.
informative, and it's great for our customers to say, oh, I didn't know the megapixels of that camera until I saw that inside of the store through that content. And so
Yeah.
it's something that certainly checks the box for, is this a great experience for our customers?
Hmm.
And does this also help the core business, right? Which is, making sure that you're connected and making sure that we're able to connect you around with loved ones across the world with the best connectivity and also the best hardware partners.
Really good answer. And I do feel as a consumer that T-Mobile lives up to its brand stance of being the uncarrier.
Hmm.
Even the magenta,
Yeah.
it's a fun, it's an upbeat color. I love that. And
Hmm.
Cherian, just a little on you personally. If T-Mobile is the uncarrier, I'm thinking that you are like the unexecutive executive. I
You,
heard something. You're gonna have to verify this.
oh
Do
my
you
gosh.
really skateboard to work?
I do. And, I have an electric skateboard.
What?
I live in Bethesda, and there's like a crane on the main street of every street. There's a new building coming up every Tuesday. And so, quite frankly, the skateboard on the back roads,
Right.
arguably, it's definitely the fastest. It might be the safest. Um, and it's fun. It gives you a
Right.
little bit of adrenaline before you get into the office.
Because you
And
personally need more adrenaline.
yeah,
I
yeah,
could tell.
exactly. But you said something about the unexecutive. I think that's totally true. Why I love working for this company as well is like, if you look at the leadership at T-Mobile, like these guys and girls eat, breathe, live, sleep. There is magenta in their veins.
Yeah.
They love this company. They love the customers. They love the brand, and A lot of people talk about kind of like customer first, customer first.
Yeah.
Here, we're just wired that way, right? And it
Huh.
starts from the top. And so everything we do in my world is always kind of, how is that good for our customers?
How cool.
And I think that's something really important. And good things come if you kind of keep that as the North Star.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that that's really important. And I've enjoyed kind of the uncarrier executives that I've been able to learn from and absorb like a sponge. But it's certainly something that doesn't just end in Bethesda. It's all the way
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Bellevue for sure.
Well, one of those executives that I had the pleasure of listening to was your chief creative officer, Peter DeLuca. And that's the last
Mhm.
time I saw you. And I love being able to
Yeah.
say this at Cannes. Uh,
Mhm.
you had an awesome magenta booth there, and Peter spoke with Barry Frey, who's the head of the DPAA,
Yep.
and he was talking about that you have the Mariners
Mhm.
Stadium and so many other
T-Mobile Field. Yeah.
places. So, do you, who's a sports fan and sports
Mhm.
activist, love working for a company that's so entrenched in sports?
I think, well, a couple things. One, Peter is a legend. And
Yeah.
if you think about kind of T-Mobile's brand, this is the best our brand has ever been. And you don't get there overnight.
Mm,
You have to be consistent. You have to be honest. You have to deliver, right? Like we say, dream big and deliver. And just time after time after time, T-Mobile has just delivered on our promises. And so I get proud every time I see a T-Mobile out of home. Like you go to Times Square, you can't miss T-Mobile. You go down the street, you
correct.
can't miss T-Mobile. We have a game at our family, or I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. If you see T-Mobile commercial, you see a T-Mobile store, you see a Metro store, you see a T-Mobile, advertisement on a
Yeah.
billboard, you get a point. And so, it's kind of like the license plate game that kids used
Yeah.
to play. Now it's a T-Mobile game. So you see T-Mobile, you're getting points. And yeah, so just going back, I think that vision that Peter and his team have had, it's like one thing to think it, it's another thing to execute and make sure
Yep.
it's seen by the consumers. And he has executed flawlessly. I certainly admire, the work and that kind of culture that Peter's built, not only internally but externally, right, about
Right.
our brand. Like people wear T-Mobile outside of employees, right, and that's something we're proud of. And then you mentioned Can, like he brought down the house, right? Like we were so excited to have
Yeah.
Peter join us on stage. And funny thing is when Peter joins, and all of a sudden you're able to get a whole bunch of folks to fill up that room. And Alyssa and the marketing team that I work with, they put a lot of hard work into that
Mm-hmm.
activation. It's not easy to coordinate all those things from here all the way,
Yeah.
at France. And yeah, I think we've just scratched the surface. We're looking forward to doing bigger and better as we kind of learn our ropes in the space.
I don't know how you get bigger than a stadium takeover, but okay. So, but taking a page from that, which that's a great case study for the pervasiveness of branding and offering a
Mhm.
product like T-Mobile. How are you positioning T ads
Mhm.
to prospective advertisers? What kind of
Sure.
features and benefits are you calling out as part A? Part B is what cool tactics are you using to get their attention?
Sure. I think it's kind of important, like you can break down the stakeholders, right? So TAds is not applicable and relevant to everybody. But if you look at brands and you look at agencies, like, hey, they find the services super valuable. And so, we need to make sure that brands know about us, top of funnel, right? So that way, if some of a team member goes and has a meeting with a brand or an agency, they're not like, what is this? Who are you?
Yeah.
Right? Like I've seen that, I've heard that, I understood that you're in the space. So we certainly want to make sure that our top of funnel brand messaging is out there. You'll see T ads at a lot of trade events. You'll see us doing a lot of
Okay.
sponsorships where the brands and agencies swim and the media buyers. Second is the ad pubs, right? And so even talking with you, like you're so well respected in the space. I love your pod. I just listened to
Thank
Anna
you.
Banger and then also Mark Kidd, right? Who we're good friends. I love to get their POVs, and so
Yeah.
making sure we're just kind of there in the industry, so we're front of mind. And then lastly is internally, right? T-Mobile itself is a big organization, and so we want to make sure that inside of the Magenta walls, people A, understand who we are, B, understand we're open for business, C, that we
Mm-hmm.
execute, and D, that like, hey, we're all on the same side of the table here. And so how can we help kind of progress this brand forward utilizing tools that we own? It's easy to say that, but it's a big organization. And so, you do need to make sure that you're always considering internally the stakeholders as well. And as far as the product and services, right, it's certainly an omni-channel, kind of offering. That said, right, like people forget, like there are a lot of folks on T-Mobile devices. There are a lot of folks, hundreds of millions of people go into our T-Mobile stores. And how can we let brands connect with our consumers? And quite frankly, offer them something awesome, right? We are the kings of that. T-Mobile Tuesdays is a great example. If you're familiar, but every Tuesday, if you go to
Uh-huh.
T-Mobile Tuesdays app, we give away free things. It's unbelievable. I believe it was like, IHOP pancakes last week, right? You
Yep.
literally are your T-Mobile customer, you get free pancakes. You're a T-Mobile customer, you get free Wi-Fi and airplanes. You're a T-Mobile customer, you like these are the giving acts that we do. And when you give and you give and you give, right, people understand that like, hey, we're here to provide a value exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Connectivity, that's a necessity. We certainly want to make sure people understand that like you can get the best connectivity at the best value. But then don't forget about all these things that we do. We leverage our brand to get our customers amazing deals and delight them. And so that's really important. And we have tons of consumer touch points. And so we're working on ways to allow a brand to connect with our customers. But the North Star there is like you're not just going to put some invasive ad in front of our customers. It better be some value exchange.
Oh,
It might
good.
be relevant.
Okay.
We also have T-Mobile first-party data, right? And so we have kind of privileged, information, all anonymized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which allows us to understand consumers, what their interests are at a high level. Are you opening the Tesla app? Are you an electric vehicle enthusiast, right? These types of things that allow us to give us insights, right? Those insights also power the AI tools that we're working on inside of T-Mobile. So we
Mm-hmm.
can build not products for tomorrow, not products for next year, but products for the next 5, 10 years, utilizing kind of the information and the data that we have to make for better experiences for our consumers in the future.
Well, your enthusiasm just radiates right through my laptop. So if that happens with you, just talking about it, I can
Well,
only imagine what it's like to be on the receiving end of a bona fide pitch.
well,
But
it's funny you mentioned this earlier. I mean, on the marketing side, we're spending dollars, right? And I think the thing that makes me most enthusiastic about this is the people you're doing it with.
yeah.
It's one thing, like if I came in with this enthusiasm or, however you put it, coming through the computer, right? That's one thing. But to then come into the office and give fist bumps to folks who are on a similar mission. And look, I don't want to come to work if it's not fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to come to work if we're tackling kind of mediocre challenges. Like these are big dreams. And in order to deliver, you better be excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's coming conveying via this podcast, but it conveys in the living room and it conveys at the family barbecues and
Right.
it's something that does it's not nine to
Even
five, right? What we're trying to do
requiring
here.
your kids to shout out when they see a T-Mobile ad. Very
Oh, I mean, there
clever.
are backpacks
Yeah.
of T-Mobile stuff
Pervasive. Oh, yeah.
everywhere. My
I'll
son
be
has the
looking for my
T-Mobile.
swag bag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The my favorite product is there's a T-Mobile Sync Up Kids watch, right? Which is like kind of a smart watch, but all you can do on it are basic things. Like after school, they go and they do math and they do the reading and science. So I could assign tasks to them. They have alarms, right? They're able to call their mom, their dad, 911, right? And like
Uh-huh.
as a parent, that was a pain point that T-Mobile had solved, right? Like I worry about my kids if they're
Oh.
out and about the park, but if I can see where they are on a map, if I get an alert when they leave a boundary, if I know they can call me and I can call them and they can't go on the internet and do all the other things, like
Yeah.
this is kind of in our ethos, is how do we kind of solve those pain points. I think that's a common
Huh.
theme that's carried forward in everything that we do.
Now, you actually teed me up really well for my last or one of my last questions to you, which you solved a pain point. And it might be the kids' sync watch, but T-Mobile is doing some more things with brand purpose. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the importance and or definition of brand purpose as you see it, and any examples you want to throw out of, either what you're doing on the T-Ad side or the corporate side.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think, as far as brand purpose, for us, it's really about connecting consumers to their loved ones, and making sure they can rely on us, and they can trust us, and those are promises that we make, and it's investments that we make. We need to make sure that the network can be there, and so the big thing now is making folks know that not only can we make sure you're connected for the moments in life where, connectivity again is a necessity. Those underserved communities that don't have connectivity, Project 10 Million, we do a lot, and we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. So the
Yeah.
purpose, anyone can be as loud and everyone can make promises, but do you actually deliver to your stakeholders? And for us, number one is that customer. And that is the main purpose, is to make sure that they understand that, they can trust in T-Mobile, that when we say something, we deliver. And I love the new Metro, right? Metro by T-Mobile
Yeah.
campaign, right? One of our promises is nada yada yada. Like that's our brand campaign right now for Metro, and it's because everyone else makes a bunch of promises, then the fine print's like yada 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 yada,
Right,
like
right.
all of this stuff.
Wah, wah, wah,
Whereas
wah.
we're so bold to just say like our actual brand messaging is nada yada yada, right? Like if that doesn't say we don't have any BS here and you can trust us,
Uh-huh.
we are literally saying like nada yada yada is our tag on Metro, and we want to earn that trust. And when I talk about like walking the walk, we go
Mm-hmm.
so far now to say like, if you don't believe we have the best network, keep your phone. You can use our network for 90 days. You don't have to pay. Like here you go. You get a network pass and see how it's blazing fast at home. And if we have to work a little uphill to earn that trust, we're willing and able to put our money where our mouth is. I know it's
Really,
a
really
long-winded
good.
answer, but it really boils down to dreaming and delivering on those promises we make to consumers.
Nice. That's great. Okay, I promise this is the last question, but clearly, Cherian, you anticipated what was happening with the restaurant area, with the rideshare area, now with
Mhm.
connectivity and being ubiquitous with that. Outside of mobile and connectivity, what are you loving? What are you excited about in the world of media?
Oh wow. I think what I'm most excited about, and we kind of scratch the surface a little bit, is these macro trends, right? Like cost of screens have come down tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's leading to for entrepreneurs to create new touch points, right? To connect with consumers along their journey. So screens are going to exist in areas that where they didn't exist before or they weren't possible before. If you have a low cost of screen and you have connectivity, why can't there be a screen at the top of the Vail ski resort, right? And why can't it show you information and speed times and fastest slow, the slope is closed, etc. So like these are things that I'm really excited about. And I guess as an industry, I'm excited because that makes the TAM, right, the total addressable market for digital out of home, much
Oh,
larger. It makes the pie bigger. And that's always been the challenge with digital out of home. It's like, oh well, how big can the market be, and where can it go? And it's like, hey, it's growing. You've got a $10 billion industry, but it's getting bigger and bigger as these macro trends
yeah.
continue.
I love it. Ubiquity, connectivity.
Well, I gotta end this with a question for you, and like, excuse my ignorance if I don't know this, but EB, what is the E and the B, or is it just EB? Like, I feel like maybe I'm not in the insider call to know that, but we gotta throw
Mm,
one back at you today.
you would have to initial out me for that, and every person needs their mystery.
I'm going to
When
hold
I
the swag bag. It's going to be the
oh
information,
no,
the value exchange needs to happen.
I might whisper it in your ear, but it's funny because when I went to work for E Entertainment Television, and you can hear my episode with Jarl Moen, then CEO. I talked about how it stood for entertainment. And when I was working at Westwood One and they were an audio or radio network, I said that it was excellence in broadcasting. So I'm like tofu. Yeah.
EBA. I didn't know you were at E.
I
That's fascinating.
was.
What were you working on there?
I ran ad sales marketing for the
Oh, there
Western
you
U.S. You would appreciate that, and
love
then
it.
covered the country at Lifetime, and then at Food Network, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, but the EB at E, that one's going to be a sentence, right?
it was
Too many.
tough.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
Well, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I've enjoyed
absolutely.
listening to other guests, folks that I admire, and kind of get the insider scoop from them. So it's certainly an honor to hang out with you, have some laughs with you, and just share a little bit of our story. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you be in New York in a few weeks.
Yeah, good. And thank you for including my tagline, the insider scoop on the business of media marketing and advertising. The check's in the mail, Cherian.
There you go. Love it. Love
Thank you
it.
so much for joining me.
Of course, anytime.
Well, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews with me, E.B. Moss. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/mossappeal. And I hope you'll follow Insider Interviews on social media and let me know if you have a question or a suggestion for a next stellar guest in media marketing and advertising. Speaking of stellar, my theme music was composed and performed by the incomparable Grammy-winning John Clayton. If I can help you with your company's podcast, please find me at mossappeal.com. Thanks again for listening.